Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Tale to Remember, our new YouTube channel. We will be uploading one video per week on Saturdays, in which we're going to talk about weird, creepy, sometimes amazing stories, but what we believe to be tales to remember. So if you like that sort of thing, please like and subscribe, turn on the notifications so that you don't miss any of our videos. And with that, we hope you enjoy today's video, our first video. Let's get started. Welcome to story time. When you think of serial killers, maybe the first name that comes to mind is Jeffrey Dahmer, who was also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal or the Milwaukee Monster. He was responsible for murdering and dismembering 17 men. Well, some boys as well. Or maybe you think of John Wayne Gacy, who was also known as the Killer Clown, who assaulted and murdered at least 33 young men and boys. He got the name of the Killer Clown because he regularly performed at children's birthday parties in the local area, and he went by the name Pogo the Clown or Patches the Clown at times. But we tend to forget that there are others out there, other people who are so twisted that they make these guys look like little boys compared to them. Today, we're going to talk about the chilling stories of the 3 worst ever serial killers, both in number of victims and cruelty of their crimes. Number 3 on our list is Javid Iqbal, child murderer and rapist, also known as Kukri. He terrorized Pakistan between 1998 and 1999. By the time he was finally caught in 1999, thanks to a letter that he himself had sent to the police, he had killed 100 children by strangulation. He was also known for trying to cover up his crimes by dissolving the bodies in acid. Javid, who was the 6th out of 8 siblings, grew up quite comfortably. His father was a businessman who did well and was able to afford a good life for him and his family. So, Javid attended good schools, and at the time when he committed his killings, he lived in a nice villa his father had bought for him. All in all, life seemed to be going all right for Javid until he was arrested one day in the 90s and accused of sodomy. He was never able to recover from the shame of that accusation, despite finally not even being charged in the case. But he said his mother was forced to watch his demise and shame until finally succumbing to a heart attack. Javid blamed the police for his tragedy and swore to make 100 mothers cry for their sons the same way his mother had cried for him before dying. He was arrested in December 1999 after he sent a letter to the police and a Lahore newspaper chief news editor confessing to the rape and murder of 100 runaway boys, all aged between 6 and 16. In the letter, he claimed to have strangled and dismembered the victims, mostly runaways and orphans living in the streets of Lahore, and disposed of their bodies using vats of hydrochloric acid. He then dumped the remains in a local river. When they raided his house, police found bloodstains on the wall and a chain, which he later claimed to have used to strangle his victims. They also found pictures of many of his victims in neatly labeled plastic bags, as well as a vat of acid with partially dissolved human remains, and a letter stating that this was done deliberately so that the police could identify the remains. The letter also said that he planned to drown himself in the Ravi River, but after unsuccessfully dragging the river, the police launched the largest manhunt in Pakistan's history for Javid. 4 teenage boys, who were his roommates, were arrested and charged as accomplices, and within days, one of them committed suicide by jumping out of a window after being severely tortured, according to an autopsy. Another one would be found hung in his cell sometime later. Javid was sentenced to death. His execution was to be carried out by strangulation in front of his victim's parents. He was then to be cut into 100 pieces that were to be dissolved in acid, like he had done to his young victims. However, like one of his accomplices, he hung himself in his cell before being executed. At number 2, we have Pedro Lopez, another psychopath who targeted those most vulnerable among us. He was convicted of raping and murdering 100 girls, but it is believed that the real number of victims that fell prey to this monster from Colombia is more than 300, or so he himself claims. He is suspected to have carried out his crimes across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Pedro, who was the 7th of 13 siblings and lived in poverty in a rural area of Colombia. According to his mother, Pedro was a polite young boy who wanted to be a teacher. But according to Lopez, seeing his mother committing acts of prostitution while growing up had disturbing effects on his psyche. Subsequently, his mother caught him fondling his younger sister in 1957, when he was only 8 years old. She kicked him out of the family home. He had no choice, he felt, so he went to the capital, Bogota. He claimed, while there, he was abducted by a man who then sexually abused him. By the age of 18, Lopez was making a living by stealing cars and selling them to local chop shops. He eventually got caught, and he said that while in prison, he was violently gang raped. This fueled a rage inside of him, and it drove him to hunt down the most brutal of his rapists and kill them while still in jail. After his release from prison, he moved to Peru, and he started murdering young girls. Lopez claimed that by 1978, he had killed over 100 girls before being caught and captured by members of an indigenous tribe. These captors were preparing to execute him when a Christian missionary from the US intervened and persuaded them to hand him over to state police. However, the police quickly released him for some unknown reason. Lopez said that he went back to Colombia and later moved over to Ecuador. During this period, he claims to have killed about 3 girls a week. Lopez said, "I like the girls in Ecuador. They're more gentle and trusting, more innocent." He was arrested when an attempted abduction failed and he was trapped by market traders. He became known as the Monster of the Andes in 1980 when he led police to 53 graves in Ecuador. The victims were all girls, interestingly enough, of 12 years of age. In 1983, he was found guilty of the murder of another 110 girls in Ecuador. He further confessed to an additional 240 murders in Peru and Colombia. Although he is believed to be one of the most prolific serial killers of the 20th century, he was released in the late 1990s. I'm wondering why. According to the BBC, Lopez was arrested in 1980, but was freed by the government in Ecuador at the end of 1998. But an A&E biography documentary reported that he was released from an Ecuadorian prison on the 31st of August, 1994. He was then rearrested as an illegal immigrant and handed over to the Colombian authorities. They charged him with a 20-year-old murder. He was declared insane, held in the psychiatric wing of a Bogota hospital. And later, in the same year, he was declared sane and released on $50 bail, subject to some conditions. The same documentary also states that Interpol released a warrant for his arrest by Colombian authorities over a new murder in 2002, and he is currently wanted by the police. There is currently no information on him. His whereabouts are unknown as of early 2021. You may have heard of because of the number of victims and cruelty of his crimes. Like number 2 on our list, Luis, aka La Bestia, the Beast, confessed to the rape, torture, and murder of 140 boys between the ages of 8 and 15 in Colombia, Ecuador, and Venezuela over a period of 7 years. But his victims could easily exceed 300 boys, for the most part street children, as he continues to confess to more murders. Caravito targeted boys between the ages of 6 and 16 who were either homeless or orphaned. He would approach the young boys and lure them away with small gifts such as money, candy, or odd jobs. He offered easy work for money and even disguised himself in different ways, characters you could say. Some people reported seeing him as a priest, others as a farmer, some as a homeless man, a street vendor, others as a drug dealer, or just a regular old elderly man. To prevent suspicions about his activities, Caravito would change his disguise often. Once he had the trust of a child, Caravito was known for walking with the boy, walking until they were tired, at which point he thought they were vulnerable, and it made them easier to handle. First, their hands were bound. Then he would remove all of their clothes and proceed to torture, rape, and sometimes decapitate them. Again, we have a case of a man born into extreme poverty and violence. His mother, who was speculated to have been a long-time prostitute, was also brutally abused by his father. Luis also said to some of the police that his father would force him to watch his mother have sex with her clients, and also, on occasions, let the clients sexually assault him. He finally ran away from this home environment and lived on the streets of Colombia for a while. When he was only 8, he was lured by a pedophile into an abandoned building, and in that building, where he had been promised a hot meal and a place to sleep, he was raped and left. Soon after, he joined a gang for protection. With this gang, he started robbing people, stealing cars, the normal stuff. At one point, you could say he had a semi-normal life, even having a girlfriend with a young child. His girlfriend later told police that Luis got along well with her son, very well, she even said. In February 1998, the bodies of 2 naked children were found lying next to each other on a hill outside of Genova, Colombia. The next day, only a few feet away, another child's naked body was found. All 3 bodies had their hands tied and signs of sexual abuse. The victims' necks were severely cut and they had bruises on their backs, genitals, legs, and buttocks. The murder weapon was found in the same area as the bodies. A note was found at the crime scene that had an address written on it, and it was that of Caravito's girlfriend's house. When the police contacted her, she said that she hadn't seen him in months. but gave them a bag which contained some of his belongings. When they looked in the bag, they were extremely shocked to find, amongst his personal belongings, pictures of young boys and a detailed journal of murders. He was picked up by the local police just a few days later on unrelated charges. A homeless man had witnessed him trying to rape a teenage boy, so he jumped in, and because he felt that the child needed help. Caravito was arrested. Unbeknownst to them at the time, the police had in their custody the man who was the most wanted killer in Colombia. After a short interrogation, detectives suspected Caravito of being La Bestia. Although Caravito insisted on his innocence, the detailed description of his killings brought Caravito to tears. He was sentenced to 1,853 years and 9 days in prison, the lengthiest sentence ever given in Colombian history. However, Colombian law limits imprisonment to 40 years. And because Caravito had helped police find victims' bodies, his sentence was further reduced to a mere 22 years. Caravito is currently serving his sentence in a maximum security prison in the city of Valle de Buar in Colombia. He is held separately from all other prisoners because it is feared that he'll be killed. He is scheduled to become eligible for parole in 2023. However, Colombian law says that those who have committed crimes against children are not eligible to receive any benefits from justice, and therefore required to spend at least 60 years of their sentence in prison. In Caravito's case, that would mean that the national maximum 40-year imprisonment limit, and especially the reduction to 22 years for helping police find victims' body, both considered justice benefits, would not be applicable. A Colombian TV host interviewed Caravito in 2006. During the interview, Caravito tried to minimize his actions and expressed intent to start a political career in order to help abused children. That's it for today, folks. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and we hope you'll come back. Have a great whatever it is, wherever you are. Thank you.